Yay, thanks, Ricardo. Thanks, Ricardo. Right, morning, everyone. Councillor Duffy's crook with the COVID lurgy. So can I have a mover and a seconder for Mayor Tong to be the acting chair of the meeting today?
Happy to move that.
Right.
Happy to second that.
Please call. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Or anyone against? Right, carried. Mayor Tong, over to you now.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this regulatory and consents meeting of 13th of April 22. As you've heard, there's an apology from Councillor Duffy and there's an apology for lateness from Councillor Ruddenclaw. I'm happy to move those apologies. Is there a seconder? Councillor Fraser. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Are there any conflicts of interest in relation to this agenda? I haven't been advised of any.
No.
There's no public forum. There's no extraordinary or urgent items. There is the confirmation of minutes on page 9. I can't move those because I wasn't in attendance at that meeting, but is there a councillor that was at that meeting can confirm those minutes? Councillor Keast, seconded Councillor Fraser. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. All right, the first item on the agenda is item 7.1. Welcome Julie to talk about the building re-accreditation audit. Thank you.
Good morning all. Thank you for your time today. I'm pleased to report this submit this report to you in person, or virtual person, I suppose. This is an overview of the accreditation process that the building team undertook in February 22. This is an IANZ International Accreditation New Zealand audit that all BCAs are subject to undertake at the agreed scheduled time. Typically, this would be a biannual audit. Our last audit in 2021 saw our BCA identified as a medium risk BCA. And so we were required to undertake an interim assessment in February 2022 to ensure that any of the non-conformances found in 2021 had continued to be complied with as the time went by. I'm very pleased to report that the outcome of this assessment was very positive. We received 7 non-conformances and 3 advice notes, as compared to the 20 non-conformances of the 2 years prior. And so the significant improvement in our procedures was noted by IANZ. I also am pleased to say that in addition to noting the improvement in many of our procedures, although there are a few that we still had a bit of work to do on, IANZ also noted a few areas of exception, which were exemplar procedures that we have implemented that they would like to encourage other BCAs to uptake. And so that overall resulted in us feeling like the steps we had taken and the effort the team had put in order to ensure compliance in these areas that we'd been found lacking in the past had definitely been recognised and noted by IANZ. I'll take the rest of the report as read and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you for that report. And are there any questions or comments from Councillor Fraser?
Yeah, firstly, thank you and well done on showing good progress and the positive results, and really pleasing to see that there's some exemplary models that are being picked up. So great work there. Do you foresee any of those issues that were picked up and not complied as any ongoing issues, or are you confident they can be rectified?
I'm quite confident they can be rectified. They primarily relate to specified systems, which is a bit of a bugbear across the council or across the nation at the moment. MB has recently released an exemplar compliance schedule template for councils to follow. And so we have adjusted our template in accordance with that. And so I think this is an area that it was a good non-conformance to be found to have, really, because we hadn't finished our work. in this space, but IANZ could certainly see that we're on the track to aligning ourselves to those requirements. The clearance of those non-conformances is what we would have done anyway, which is ongoing auditing until we were confident that we were complying to all of the requirements, now that we've got an exemplar to follow. And so the good news is that the level of extra work required to clear those non-conformances isn't really outside of what we would have been doing anyway.
Great. And the second question, just really, are there any changes to processes or changes to IANZ's kind of standards that may cause on any other issues coming up that you're aware of, or you're confident that the system's not changing beyond what you're aware of?
There are talks at the MB level that there will be some code changes and changes to what is called an acceptable solution. So that may evolve over time. But right now I'm seeing a lot of consistency with the approach IANZ is taking in their audits. And I'm seeing a lot of consistency in the way that MB themselves are working to feedback to BCAs and engage with BCAs in this process. And so I think over time, outside of, climate change legislation, which is going to drive a lot of change in our area, I don't see any intention to make this more onerous. I think there's a level of consistency, and BCAs are really becoming to understand what's expected of them in this audit process.
Pleasant to hear. Thank you.
Councillor, any other comments or questions? Thank you, Julie. Once again, a very good report, and great to see. My concern, as I've raised at the Finance and Assurance, is the human resource cost and the financial cost to these audits, but it is what it is. I appreciate the time, especially with everything else that you've been asked to do under the Building Act. All right, unless you or your team have anything else, I'll ask the councillor to go through the recommendations. Okay, you have the recommendations A through to D. I'm happy to support those recommendations. Is there a seconder? Councillor Fraser, all those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Julie. And thanks for that email this morning. Okay, next item on the agenda is item 7.2.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this report is seeking approval from the Regulatory and Consents Committee to update the list of approved hearing commissioners who can make a decision on behalf of council under matters under the Resource Management Act. So effectively, council has an existing list of approved commissioners, and that was last updated in 2009. That list is very much out of date. There's only 2 practicing commissioners on that list currently. So accordingly, in order for council to maintain independent decision making on matters where there may be a conflict of interest from council, or there may be a particular set of circumstances where the council Regulatory and Consents Committee cannot hear a resource consent application, it is appropriate to appoint an independent hearing commissioner who's suitably qualified to undertake that decision making process. So effectively, this report seeks to reapprove a list of approved commissioners, but instead of having a specific list of named individuals, rather it seeks to appoint anyone who is suitably qualified and has been through the Making Good Decisions course. So, for example, if there was a particular cultural or mana whenua issue, you could potentially appoint a specific commissioner to hear those niche topics, as opposed to having a narrow list of approved commissioners. You have a greater breadth of experience to call on, and experience across the country, particularly if there's legal issues or anything like that. So having a wide list creates more scope for getting specific special skill sets involved for that decision making. So my recommendation seeks to update the commissioner list and update it to enable council to use anyone who is an approved commissioner as per the list.
Thank you, Marcus. No brainer to me. And I had a look at the list and I see 2 names on there that I know, and I see it goes with their expiry dates too, which is fantastic. Are there any comments or questions from council? Okay, thank you. Sorry, council. Oh, welcome, Councillor Menzies. Question.
Thank you. Finally got in. No, it wasn't a question. Just happy to move.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Fraser. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Well, that is the end of the Regulatory Consents Committee meeting for today, and I'll close the meeting and we'll go into a